What if the most famous meaningless murder in modern literature only feels meaningless because we're looking in the wrong direction? In The Stranger, Meursault kills a man on a sun-blasted beach. The moment is stripped down, almost empty. No clear motive, no emotional buildup. Just heat, light, and a trigger pulled almost by accident. For decades, this scene has been read as the purest expression of the absurd, an act without meaning, in a world that offers none. But that reading depends on something quietly missing, not from the text, from us. The standard interpretation is familiar. Meursault doesn't kill for revenge, or hatred, or gain. He kills because the sun is too bright, the heat too oppressive, the moment too overwhelming. Camus gives us a consciousness narrowed to sensation, sweat, glare, pressure. The language flattens, intention dissolves. And so the murder becomes philosophical. Not a crime with a cause, but an event without one. This is what makes it unsettling. Not that a man dies, but that his death seems to resist explanation. The world, in that instant, appears indifferent to reason, to morality, to narrative itself. But this interpretation asks us to accept something strange. It asks us to believe that the absence of explanation is the same as the absence of cause. The scene is not contextless. Before the shooting, there is already conflict. Raymond has fought with a group of Arab men. Meursault has agreed to help him. He is carrying a gun. When he returns to the beach alone, the encounter is not random. It is the continuation of a tension already established. None of this disappears. What disappears is emphasis. The narration does something precise. It narrows attention until context recedes and sensation dominates. The sun becomes overwhelming. The knife flashes. The physical world crowds out everything else. But narrowing is not erasing. The more the text insists on heat and light, the less we see what surrounds them. And the less we see, the more we are tempted to say, "There is nothing there." This is the first mistake. It is easy, too easy, to say that the sun causes the murder. The language almost invites it. The heat presses down. The light fractures perception. The trigger seems to follow as a kind of reflex. But the sun does not pull the trigger. What it does is destabilize perception. It compresses experience into sensation. It makes the world feel immediate, unbearable, stripped of distance. Under that pressure, reflection collapses. Not because it is impossible, but because it is not exercised. To say the sun made him do it is not an explanation. It is a displacement. It moves responsibility away from a human decision and onto the environment, as if causality itself had been outsourced. But nothing in the scene actually removes Meursault's agency. It only obscures it. And this obscuring is reinforced by the narrative voice. Meursault's tone is famously flat. Readers often take this as evidence that he feels nothing. But the novel does not show an absence of feeling. It shows a refusal to interpret feeling. He experiences discomfort, pleasure, irritation, even attachment. What he does not do is organize these experiences into a recognizable psychological narrative. We are used to characters who explain themselves, who translate sensation into motive, emotion into meaning. Meursault does not. And so we mistake the absence of interpretation for the absence of interiority. But the silence is not emptiness. It is unarticulated experience. And when experience is not articulated, we step in to do it ourselves. We supply explanations. We impose coherence. We say, this must mean something or nothing. Either way, the meaning comes from us. Nowhere is this more visible than in the figure of the man Meursault kills. He is referred to only as the Arab. He has no name, no voice, no interiority. He exists in the narration as a surface, another element of the scene, like the sun or the sea. And most readings accept this without hesitation. The victim becomes incidental, a function of Meursault's experience, a necessary element in a philosophical demonstration. But this anonymity is not neutral. The novel is set in colonial Algeria. The man Meursault kills belongs to a population systematically deprived of power, visibility, and representation. His absence of identity in the text mirrors a broader historical erasure. And when we read the scene as purely existential, as a meditation on meaninglessness, we participate in that erasure. We allow the victim to disappear. This is the second mistake, because the idea of a meaningless murder depends on minimizing what has, in fact, happened. A man has been killed. Not an abstraction, not a symbol, but a person whose absence is structurally enforced, both by the world of the novel and by the way we are encouraged to read it. The philosophical reading does not simply emerge from the text. It requires a blind spot. The beach scene, then, is not a pure expression of the absurd. It is something more unsettling. It is a moment where meaning is not absent, but displaced. Displaced from motive to sensation. Displaced from action to environment. Displaced from the victim to the narrator. And finally, displaced from the text to the reader. We are the ones who complete the scene. We decide what matters, what counts as cause, what can be ignored. We accept the narrowing of perspective and mistake it for the limits of reality itself. This is why the novel feels so resistant to interpretation. Not because it contains no meaning, but because it reveals how meaning is constructed, selectively, unevenly, and often at the cost of what remains unseen. The famous emptiness of the murder is not a property of the event. It is an effect of perspective. The unsettling power of The Stranger does not lie in the idea that the world is meaningless. It lies in how easily meaning can be removed, not by erasing events, but by redirecting attention, by narrowing the frame, by allowing certain details to fade until they no longer register as significant. A man is killed on a beach. We remember the sun, and in that shift, from the fact of the death to the feeling of the light, the novel exposes something more disturbing than absurdity. It shows how quickly a human life can become background, and how easily we accept it.